It's been over 4 months since the first Shadow play was released for Stranger Things, and I'm finally doing some digging surrounding the play in correlation with the actual show in Stranger Things, and I think I just have some groundbreaking news, to be honest with you. I think this theory is confirmed. I think Will Byers will have powers, and I'm going to get into that today. The reason I haven't done any digging on it, until now is just, when you make hundreds of theories about a show, I don't want to say there was a burnout. It was more just my brain was so tired of thinking of theories for the show that I was overthinking it all the time and just not really getting anywhere. And now I think I have a refreshed motivation to figure out what's going to happen in this show. And I think that this thing that I'm about to explain is definitely going to happen. But before we get into it, guys, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn on post notifications. And if you guys haven't already joined my Discord, be sure to do so. A link to that will be in the description. We're almost at 1,000 members in the Discord. And of course, this is a new YouTube channel, so we're trying to get to 1,000 subs ASAP. So if you haven't subscribed or send it to your friends, be sure to do so. This theory will blow your guys' mind because it blew my mind. So let's get right into it. So before I explain it, I want to preface this by saying I don't know exactly what happens in the play because I never seen it. I didn't go over to London and watch the play, but I've done a lot of digging on Reddit and just on the internet about the play and what happened in it. And it explains so much that people who are just going to see this theory on my TikTok or Instagram, they're going to think I know the writers or something. But this was in the play. They're literally explaining so many holes in the storyline through the play, which it doesn't really make any sense to me because they haven't put it on Netflix. They haven't, said that they're going to put it on Netflix. So if the casual fan can't watch this play and doesn't have the access to buy a ticket to go to London, then nobody's going to know this information. So, there's so much in this play. And the first thing I want to talk about is how Henry/1/Vecna originally got his powers when he was younger. This is how I took it when I was reading about the play. Basically, the way people were explaining it was that when he was younger, he lived in Rachel, Nevada. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And somewhere along in his childhood, I didn't really get the details, it basically said that he was transported or put in an alternate dimension for some period of time, and they called it Dimension X, or they referred to it as Dimension X. That's all they said. And when he went to this dimension, it altered his blood, giving him Mind Flayer particles, or the Mind Flayer particles in that dimension altered his blood. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows how it altered his blood, but some way, shape, or form, when he went to that dimension and got brought there, it altered his blood to where he eventually gained powers. And this also is going to go into another theory that I'm going to make, that he is possessed by the Mind Flayer. It isn't all just Henry being a villain. Now, obviously, we've seen this before. We've seen a young child in Stranger Things get transported to another dimension out of nowhere. Will Byers, obviously this happened to him in the first episode of Stranger Things. He fell off his bike after seeing a huge monster, just 10-foot monster right in front of him on the road, ran into the woods, and then he ran home, tried to get a gun in the shed, pointed at this monster, couldn't do anything obviously, and just got taken to the Upside Down just like that. And then 1 week later, Hopper and Joyce somehow went to Hawkins' lab and went through the gate with these suits on and went and found Will in the Upside Down. And when they found him, he was connected to the hive mind. He was connected, there was a vine in his throat, and it was connected in him. He was connected to the Upside Down for a week, and that's how he was surviving, I would assume. That's how he was being kept alive. And so we've seen exactly what happened to Henry in this play, in his childhood, the prequel to Stranger Things. He got brought to this dimension, it altered his blood, and that's how he got powers. Will got brought to the dimension, and did it alter his blood? That's what I'm theorizing. Because they have such parallel storylines. They were always outliers when they were young kids. They never fit in, blah, 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 blah. They were sensitive children. Their parents talked about that. So if they're having these parallel storylines, shouldn't Will have a parallel to Henry's prequel? I mean, it sure does sound like that could be a strong possibility. On top of that, if it is really Mind Flayer's particles that got Henry powers in the first place, even if it didn't get into Will's bloodstream the first time around when he got brought to the Upside Down, wouldn't it get into his bloodstream when the Mind Flayer tried to use his body as a host? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? The Mind Flayer was literally in his body, in the real world. And then it exited when they heated it up or whatever, but it was in his body. And he has that feeling on his neck every time since. You know what I'm saying? So surely, if feeling is in his neck, he has to have some sort of Mind Flayer particles in his body. Not? Am I crazy for assuming that? But like, to me, that's like obvious. Like, clearly, if he's getting a feeling in his neck, he has to have some sort of connection with the Mind Flayer. And if that's how Henry got his powers, according to the first Shadow play, then I would assume Will Byers will be on that same, level as Henry. He will have the same, effects or benefits or whatever, or curses that Henry got from the Mind Flayer. Will have those same things. And this also brings another interesting point up. The reason why Henry captured or wanted to capture Will in the first place in season 1, I don't know why he specifically targeted Will. That was very weird. Maybe it just reminded him of himself. He was like, oh, this kid is an outlier, outcast or whatever. I was a sensitive kid, whatever. He targeted him. I don't really know why he targeted him, but it was mentioned that someone said Henry wanted to create a second version of himself because Elle, if you remember in the flashbacks in season 4, didn't want to go with Henry in the Upside Down. So therefore, Henry wanted to get another version of himself. I guess he couldn't just create a clone, so he decided to capture a kid from the real world, bring him to the Upside Down, and he wanted to make a duplicate of himself so he could eventually take over the world with Will's body. That's what I got from it. So that's very interesting. And with this connection with the Mind Flayer, I mean, I don't know. Like, it seems like Henry is being controlled by the Mind Flayer in some way, shape, or form still to this day. And it also seems like Will could potentially still be controlled by the Mind Flayer, potentially, if the Mind Flayer still has some sort of grasp or control on him. If the Mind Flayer left something in his body when it left his body, it seems like that could still be a possibility as well. But for now, let's just assume that the Mind Flayer is completely out of his body. And he's not going to have any control over Will, or it's not going to have any control over Will, and Will's just there, in season 4, regular human, but could still have some particles in him, from the Mind Flayer, or from originally being in the Upside Down and being connected to the hive mind. If none of those are true, like if him being in the Upside Down for a week, connected to the hive mind, had no affiliation, had no connection, like, with him having particles in his body at all, I would be completely surprised. Because I feel like he was literally surviving the Upside Down because the Upside Down was, like, connected to him. I feel like if he wasn't, he wouldn't have survived for 1 week without food or water as a young kid. And then if him getting hosted by the Mind Flayer in season 2 didn't have any effect on his body as far as powers, I'd be completely surprised as well. As far as the particles in his blood, I'd be completely surprised. I mean, that would be like, those are two huge signs or potential reasons of why he could have powers. If both of those are false, I would be surprised, and I would just, okay, I'm wrong, I guess, but like, right now, I'm believing that he's going to have powers because of those two huge possibilities and huge potential reasons of why he could potentially acquire Mind Flayer particles in his bloodstream. Also, I want to make a whole video on this, but I just want to mention this at the end of the video, that the reason why everyone got powers, the reason why the kids all got powers, it was explained in this play, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. I'm just first researching it now, so it's like blowing my mind as we speak. But basically, like, Dr. Brenner captured Henry, blah, 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 and he literally just took Henry's DNA, put it in these pregnant women and these kids, and that's how they got the powers. He just transferred the DNA from Henry to these kids, essentially. That's how all the kids got powers. It wasn't because of these drugs or whatever. I guess the drugs were just to, like, put them asleep and just, like, make them forget everything. That's what I would assume. But yeah, it's a pretty fascinating discovery that I've made today for myself, like with this play. I know, like I said, a lot of you guys probably already have watched it or researched it or whatever, but yeah, I think with all this information, the least we can do is just consider it as a real possibility that there's like a 50% chance that Will Byers could have powers in season 5. Considering all of the parallels with Henry's storyline, how Henry got his powers, transported to an alternate dimension, Will Byers transported to an alternate dimension, and they both got possessed by the Mind Flayer at some point as young children, which is very interesting. So considering all the parallels, both sensitive children, both outliers. I don't know if they're both gay, but so far, according to Joyce and Victor Creel, both of these kids were sensitive children who were always outcast, and their storylines are parallel throughout the whole entire show. So it would only make sense that if Henry got powers because he got transported to an alternate dimension for some period of time, that Will Byers is going to have powers because he got transported to an alternate dimension for a certain period of time. That's my assumption. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but like that, I am pretty confident that this is going to be the case in season 5. Now, the real question is, what type of powers is Will Byers going to have? Because it doesn't have to be just like psychokinetic powers where he just like, he lifts this book right here and just like moves it. It doesn't just have to be like that. It could be, maybe he could, like, for example, Callie, she could make people see things that weren't real. What if Will could make people see things that were real? Maybe like there is a theory out there that he created the Upside Down to be a replication of Hawkins. I don't really believe that. I don't think that really makes any sense. I think Elle did that when she originally opened the gate to the dimension. But like maybe that painting that he had in season 4, maybe he makes that painting come to life. Like maybe he can make people see things, but those things that people are seeing things are actually there. Like they're actually real, not like a facade, what Callie did, but on another level to where that three-headed, the dragon, that thing can come real because Will has powers. Like that would be absolutely incredibly groundbreaking, insane plot twists, everything in the book. If Will Byers ends up having powers, this is going to go down as the best show of all time. Like, I swear it would be the biggest plot twist in like Netflix history. It would be a bigger plot twist than Henry being Vecna and being the ultimate whatever villain. Well, not the ultimate villain, but being a villain. It would be bigger than any plot twist in Stranger Things, and it would be bigger than any plot twist I've seen in any TV show. Now, I haven't watched Game of Thrones or any of shows like that, but I've watched a decent amount of shows, and if that is the case, and Will Byers is going to have powers, then that's going to be that is going to be so viral, and hopefully this theory is true, and then people are gonna be like, holy crap, this guy's seen it in the first Shadow play. Like this was here. We actively discussed this theory April 1st, 2024. And, it came true. That would be awesome. Granted, we still have over a year until we can find out. But, overall, guys, I do think it's a huge possibility. Now, obviously, I want to know your guys' thoughts, your guys' theories. Explain, first of all, your thoughts on, the first Shadow and if you think that has any correlation with Will potentially having powers. And second of all, if you think Will Byers is going to have powers, what type of powers do you think he will possess? Thank you guys for watching this video. Be sure to drop a like. Let's go for 50 likes on this video. Subscribe if you are new. Join the Discord. Follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, all the other social medias. And I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this theory becomes true because I love it. And make sure to have a great rest of your day. Peace out.